Now we're live. Okay, great. Hi, it's me. It's Jessica. How are you? I am back to talk about the fourth installment, or whatever, of the access vocal method. So the fourth letter is E for expanding your technique. Okay. Now, I just want to recap really quick. We did A for awareness, C for calm, and C for coordinate. Those are really about setting up the mind and body to be ready to make a good sound, a sound that is the most free that your body can possibly create in any given moment. So now we move on to expanding technique because, yeah, okay, your body's all lined up and everything, but does it actually know how to do all the things and stay in that healthy way and expand your range? Give you more options. Can you be loud? Can you be soft? Can you stay resonant? Are you falling out of the pocket? All these other things kind of can come into play when we're building our technique. We want to get everything organized so that it is almost flawless. It's not really possible, right? Perfection is not possible. It's a human voice. It's an instrument. It does not do perfection. We don't do perfection. We can get real close, but perfection is not really possible. So here we go. Ow. Technique is very, very important, right? But if you are having a dysregulated nervous system or a physical body position that is kind of like putting a kink in your hose, right? It doesn't matter how much you work on all the technical stuff. They're not going to coordinate correctly and provide you with the best sound, the best breath support, the best resonance, the best articulation. All of these things kind of come together to create the optimal conditions for the sound to go. Many vocal practices start with this. Voice lessons, first thing you do, you go in, you start breathing, working on that. You know, maybe you'll do or whatever, and then on we go to building technique. I really like to set yourself up for more technical skill building success by putting those three things in front of the expansion of technique. Because if you have a voice that is, or a physical instrument that is ready to work, you're going to be in a better situation. It's like the difference between, you know, the very first violin you get as a kid and you're just learning how to play an orchestra and the Stradivarius, right? The Stradivarius was built to be incredible. The shape of it, the way the strings are, the neck, the entire thing is coordinated to create the best sound, right? And then you come along and you play it with a technique. But if you're starting out with the, you know, the violin that you got that the school has, that's been passed down for like 15, 20 years from fourth grader to fourth grader, odds are that's not, no matter what kind of technique you have, that instrument's not going to produce the same kind of sound. So we want to give ourselves the opportunity to become the Stradivarius before we develop the actual technique. Okay, so here we go. Big idea. What's the big idea? What's the big idea? So technique, all it does is give you more freedom. It gives you more choice. You can start to use more mix. You could use more head. You could use more chest. You could feel your resonance perhaps being a little more forward. You could have it be a little bit more back. You can darken your tone, brighten your tone, let it get a little breathy, right? Keep it a little bit strident. These are all things that you want to have the capability to choose as opposed to default to, right? So that's what technique is going to do. It's just going to help you build the ability to have choices. So, and it's really just how we expand what's already naturally available to us, just because this thing is there. The larynx is built to function a certain way. And it will function properly if you get out of your own way. So let me just see what I wrote here. Right? Okay, so it's very important to remember that we're not changing who you are when we build technique. We're not changing your style. We're not changing your overall desires for your voice. That's not what this is about. It's about giving yourself more access to what is there, right? So it means that you're just going to increase its capability. Now, this is my favorite part, okay? Because I have been obsessed with butterflies and the idea of transformation, metamorphosis for quite some time now. I mean, the name of my company that is specifically about transformational vocal coaching is called the Butterfly Effect Transformational Vocal Coaching. And the reason for that is because of this idea of coordination. The mind and the body, right? They have to come together. The mind, body, and the spirit have to come together in order for the wings to fly. They cannot fly independent. Yes, they are independent, like independent suspension on a vehicle with the cars, the tires, the wheels. Yes, they do move independently of each other. But if they are not coordinated together, these four wings, then the butterfly doesn't really fly. It kind of flaps around and maybe doesn't even get off the ground in the first place. So if we look at the wings as the vocal technique aspect of the whole vocal picture, we get this. We have one wing for respiration. And respiration is your breath support and the management of the air that comes in and goes out of you. How you use it, how it passes through the vocal folds, and the degree in which you maintain the flow of air. Okay, is it rushed? Is it very slow? All of these things come from the breath mechanism itself, which is the diaphragm, the abdominal and lower back muscles, and the rib cage. All the muscles in between your ribs, the intercostals that between the coasts, right? There's interior and there's exterior, and they work in tandem with each other. All of these muscle groups work together to provide the breath support and management required to only allow a certain amount to go through the vibrator, which is the larynx. The larynx itself has a very small function in the overall picture of how your voice is created, how the sound that comes out of you, this is a very tiny thing. If you have a camera, sometimes if you go to an ENT or an otolaryngologist, they'll stick a camera up your nose and down your throat. And what it does is takes a look at the vocal folds themselves. But if it was a tiny little microphone and you went, you would not hear, you'd hear bzz, tiny little buzzing at a fundamental pitch. Any of the color and overtones that we get happen above the larynx and then nasopharynx, the pharynx, and the vestibule. All of that happens not from the little vibrator, right? Not from the larynx itself. It's the spaces above that give you the color and the tone and the sound of your voice. It's that acoustic phenomenon. It's not the little buzz, right? So, but there are tiny little muscles in there that can be impeded, which we went over before when we were talking about massage and stretch, by other muscle groups. Now that we've kind of gotten rid of that, hopefully they can just vibrate simply and function the way they're supposed to, tilt to stretch or contract so that they're thicker or thinner, creating the different fundamental pitch, right? So that is wing number 2. Wing number 3. I feel like, wing number 3, right? So we have the resonator. I had just mentioned that the resonance is what happens above the larynx itself, the nasopharynx, the vestibule, right? All of this is our amplifier and our resonator. Yeah, we do have chest resonance every once in a while, but the sound doesn't really travel out of here. We can feel it here. We can feel the vibrations, in the lower parts of our voice, down here, I can just put my hand here and I can feel it vibrating. But when I start speaking up here, I get a little bit less, but I still feel it vibrating here. That doesn't mean that's where my resonance lives, okay? So chest voice, head voice really has to do with the thickness or thinness of the vocal folds, not really where you feel it. Because even in chest voice, I still feel it in my face and in my head. So that's like sort of a misnomer, I guess. So it is the tone color, the ring, the brightness, the warmth, the placement. I hate that word, but here we are. Chest voice, head voice, mix, projection, the clarity of your tone comes from good vocal fold closure, but also comes from an apparatus, acoustic apparatus that is set up to magnify the sound correctly, right? All right, now wing number 4, articulation. Articulation helps with a couple of different things. Not only are we not singing nonsense, we're singing words, right? We have to have clarity of communication. If we are mumbling when we're singing and we're not getting a whole lot of, can you understand me right now? Not right. No, you can't understand that, right? So diction is important. And it's also your tongue, your jaw, your lips, your soft palate. Well, your soft palate really is more in the resonator, because that's going to trigger all the space. That's going to give you that space. But these things in here are the articulators, right? And if they get in the way of the resonator, which they can, and they can also get in the way of the vibrator, right? So we have to be aware of these 4 kind of systems and how they coordinate with each other. When you have very good, what they call lyric diction, you're using the contrast between consonants and vowels to help with back pressure against the vocal folds, sort of like an SOVT. I know it's crazy, right? But it's very helpful, because then you're not blowing all this air through and you've got more control over the airflow dynamics, right? So look, a butterfly, it just can't operate with one working wing. It's going to have all 4 working together in tandem, coordinated. And we need repeatable exercises and warm-ups that expand our capability with how we use and deliver the voice through these 4 wings, right? All right. Every single exercise is working with multiple, if not all, of them at once, because everything is nothing. They don't live in a vacuum. The breath, yeah, you can work on the breath, but if you don't know how the vocal folds are going to react to that air, it doesn't matter what you're doing without making a sound, right? You have to make the sound to learn how the breath reacts to that and how the voice reacts to the breath. And now, if we're not focused our resonance and we're not resonating properly or really sending the sound where it needs to go, placement, there's just so many different words people use for this, then we're going to end up having tension and losing more air, right? All of these things, they go together. Now, the goal, of course, is never perfection. I need to make that abundantly clear. Like I said before, we are human beings. Our instrument is a living thing inside of our living body. We are not perfect. We're just not. So there's going to be times when we get what we feel is as close to perfection as possible. And then there's going to be times when it doesn't happen. But we want to be as consistently close to perfection as possible. And that's why building a solid technique is important. That's why giving yourself options and building the technical skills required to allow those options to be available for you, right? I keep talking about access, right? We have to have access to the options. The technique gives us access to those options. Yes? Okay. So Real singing is dynamic. It has different temperatures, emotions, colors, energy levels, breathiness, tight sounds, never without, never actually muscling that tight sound, but you can make a tight sound without it being muscled. I know, that's kind of crazy, right? When we think of a tight sound, we think of it being just very, very clean and clear with no extra air going through. And then sometimes we want to have a more breathy sound, right? Or we want to use a little vocal fry, maybe fry, hear it at the beginning or even at the end of a word, right? And these things are very helpful with expression. And the whole point is to get to the part where you get to express, right? This is what we're here for. This is what we use our voice for, to express, to communicate. So, technique is not memorizing one particular setting or, one particular way of doing things. It's about developing enough options that your voice can adapt to whatever is needed at any given moment. Okay? It's also about capacity. So, when people hear the word expand, they usually think higher or lower notes, right? And yeah, that's part of it. Absolutely. You want to expand your range, right? But that's just one piece of what expansion looks like. It's also command of dynamics, which I mentioned just before. Being able to hold longer phrases without taking another breath and sustain those phrases so that you're not at the end of it absolutely dying and then gasping for your next breath and then coming in with tight muscles. No, right? More stamina. You can go and sing for a few hours, right? You've built up muscles that are required versus ones that take away from your capacity. You get more choice with emotion and the colors because you've worked on it. You're not just winging it anymore. Oh, winging, get it? Haha, wings. Yeah, sorry. Flexibility in the voice, right? You want to do runs. You want to be able to choose different styles in general. You want to be able to sing like a pop singer. You want to be able to sing like a Broadway person. You want to be able to sing classical music. These are all different technical skills that you build. They could be considered separate techniques, but ultimately it's one instrument, right? It's like the difference between playing classical guitar where you have fingernails that pluck the strings and a guitar that is like an electric guitar or whatever, we're using a pick, right? Same instrument, different approach, different skill sets. Having as many skill sets as you can gives you more options, gives you more flexibility, gives you more expression or opportunity for expression. So you get to have freedom between your registers, right? There's a lot of people who take their chest voice up so high that all of a sudden they're just yelling. Okay. Does that really work? No. I have a colleague right now who is going through quite a lot because she has over time been compensating a little bit too much with chest and not enough head to bring in the mix and equalize the sound without overstraining. And now she's got like a clamp on her vocal folds that will not vibrate at a certain point. And her head voice is this breathy, weak sound, right? This is not going to work. That's not sustainable, right? We want to have a sustainable technique, sustainable instrument that can go and handle what it needs to handle. These are very important things. So, when your voice becomes available in more situations and different opportunities, that's expansion. You have consistency, you have confidence, and you have freedom. Isn't that what everybody wants, right? Vocal freedom. So, really quick, a lot of people just try to build technique before coordinating the rest of the instrument and bringing awareness to things that need adjustment physically, emotionally, mentally, before beginning to work on the instrument itself. I really think this is a mistake. You're more likely to solidify bad habits when you do things like that. you're more likely to not get the growth as fast as you might like when you do that. Okay? You got to untie the knots first, dekink your hose, so to speak, right? Posture comes before breath. Breath comes before technique. And every piece comes first from physical and mental release. Has to. So, technique is just skills. Skill is not restrictive, right? You build different skill sets for different kinds of things, and then you get to pick and choose what you do at any given moment because you have built up the technique. Skills are liberating. Technique is liberating, right? The better your technique becomes, the less you have to think about it. It becomes habit, and your body will just do the things that it needs to do, and it frees your brain up for expression, for connection. It's like driving or riding a bicycle or falling off the bicycle. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Or typing, that's a muscle memory thing. It's all muscle memory. And when you build muscle memory, you can go almost on automatic pilot. I do not recommend riding a bicycle or driving completely from, automatic pilot. It's very important to stay aware of your surroundings. But you don't constantly have to be thinking about, okay, now I'm going to put it in first gear and I have to push on the gas and I have to make sure that my steering, when you first started learning to drive, right? It was a lot more thought involved, and now you just do it. It's the same concept. Eventually the mechanics and your thought about those mechanics disappears. And the only thing that shows up is expression. And you sound like the, quote, natural singer, right? We are all natural singers. We all are. We just have to get out of our own way and let us access that natural sound. So now, this is like a little bit of homework, okay? I want you to, if you're a singer, pick a short phrase of music that you like, that you are working on, right? So sing it through, right? And then I want you to think about the breath, the tensions, potential tensions in the body, and releasing them. I want you to think about what kind of tone you're looking for. Is it breathy? Is it belty? What are we looking for? What is the sound you want to create, right? Just sing it through and change one thing about what you want the sound to sound like. Are you able to do it just because you want to? Do you think maybe building up skill sets might be helpful in giving you more options? Expanding your technique will give you more options and flesh out what is available to you, again, at any given moment, right? Notice what changes, if anything, when you try to apply something different. Like, let's say you're so used to belting something, and this time you're going to sing it more in your head voice, right? Is the head voice as clear as the belt, or is it breathier? Are you maybe thinking that you're going to sing a little bit more instead of thinking your vowels so tall? Maybe that's something you want to change. I mean, make it like something wildly different. Just see how easy it was or how hard it was, right? Technique is about discovering new possibilities and then building the muscle memory around that, right? So, another thing to think about, next time you're singing something, maybe don't judge and say, was that any good? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, right? But when you're practicing and you're looking to make a change, see if it does change. Notice what happened physically to create that change, if any change happened. Was it easier? Was it harder? What did you find out? Right? It grows a lot faster when you're doing evaluation that way instead of judging what you think the quality of the sound was. I have a young person who very much wants to go from point A to point Z. She wants to sound like what she wants to sound like. Unfortunately, it tends to be what someone else sounds like. And the thing is, we're never going to sound like someone else. Even the best mimic is not exactly the same as the original. Far better to learn to develop your instrument, your own artistry, and see what opens up from there. So I guess what I'd like to say in closing is that, every step so far of the Access methodology, the Access vocal method, has been leading to expansion of technique. You became aware, you calmed your nervous system, you coordinated your physicality, you released tension, you figured out your postural stuff, right? And now the wings get a real chance to fly. You get a real chance to develop good, healthy muscle memory and skill sets that will take your voice to the next step, to the next level. It's not just about what your voice can do, but what you can communicate, share, connect with. Because what's the point? Are we just doing this to hear ourselves? Or is there something that we're in communication with others with? Right? We have something to say. We have something to sing. It's not just about singing better. It's about strengthening your expression. And you can't strengthen your expression, which, by the way, is the next step, without a solid technique. That's it. I'll see you next time. We will talk about strengthening expression in a little bit more detail. I hope you found this helpful. And I really hope that if you have any questions or anything, please let me know. I know I didn't tell you all the little technical steps of like how you do X, Y, Z. That's a lot. Like this would go on for hours. Okay. So if you do have any specific questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can get me here on Substack. I will be posting on YouTube as well as in my Facebook group. If you're in my Facebook group, but I'm always reachable. Have a really great week and I'll see you next time. Remember though, just sing because. Bye. See you next time.